Alright, so should we have a phase 4 stimulus or should we reopen the economy back up? Hello, sunshine! Unironically, I do realize that YouTubers sort of fall into that category as well, which is why here's another meme that's really appropriate. Cause hypocrites are people too, you know. But on a serious note, I wanted to make today's video that makes sense of all of the madness that is the CARES Act, specifically as it relates to phase 4 of the plan, because right now, political leaders from both parties are coming together to chime in on all the past stimulus proposals that we've talked about. Now, I don't know about you, but recently, I've been getting so confused with all the intricacies and nuances of the government and the politics and all the bickering and debating that's going on. Lately, all we're hearing is Federal Reserve, Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, the Senate, the House of Representatives,
the Republic.
This is legit becoming more confusing than the plot of a really confusing Star Wars movie. This is more confusing than trying to figure out what Elon Musk is trying to name his son. Obviously, that spells Kyle. So I wanted to set the record straight for this video, go back to the basics, and set the stage for what's about to happen. Hi everyone, my name is Andrei Jikh. Hope you're staying safe, and you know how they say to never talk about religion, money, and politics? That's why I made a YouTube channel talking about personal finance, covering a highly politicized topic. Please don't hurt me. Now, so far, we have a battle in Congress. It's the Republicans versus the Democrats, and each party wants something from the other in order to benefit their own constituents, which is actually not people who are constipated, but they might as well be because no one's making any decisions and coming to any conclusions. And now there's a new proposal on the horizon. Now, so far, we've heard all of them: rent and mortgage forgiveness, stimulus checks of $2,000 for up to 1 year, and even support for tax breaks and payroll deductions for large corporations. But if you haven't been keeping up, the government, without publicly announcing, has just cut down the EIDL, the Emergency Injury Disaster Loan Program, which was meant for small businesses and separate from the PPP, down to $150,000 from $2 million of their original promise. And this means that a lot of small business owners will more than likely have to declare bankruptcy. And the reason they did this is because they want to prioritize agricultural industries first. They want to put them front and center for this money because the demand is so high and funding is starting to dry up. But doing this is going to have really bad consequences because I used to work for a startup, and I think that small businesses are kind of like the structural integrity or the backbone of the US economy. And without those businesses, unemployment is going to climb even higher and things are going to get even worse. So that's why I want to give you a quick recap of all the phases that we've been through so far. Phase 1 was around $8.5 billion that was passed on March 5th to fund research and development to try to find vaccines. Phase 2 was a lot larger at $105 billion, passed on March 18th and gave people paid sick leave, insurance for unemployment, and free testing. And phase 3 was the largest stimulus plan in history at $2 trillion, passed on March 25th, and that's the one that included payments to us, small businesses, and support for healthcare. Then we got phase 3.5, which was $484 billion, which was used to replenish some of the other phases. And now you're all caught up. Welcome. But now we're entering phase 4 of the CARES Act between the Democrats and the Republicans to provide some relief to the American people. So here's an Eli 5. Explain like I'm 5 as far as what's going on with this new proposal as we enter phase 4 of the CARES Act. The Democrats are writing a bill that includes more than $750 billion in aid to state and local governments, which would really help people like teachers, police officers, and firefighters. So most likely we'll see some sort of an agreement between Democrats and Republicans here, but the Democrats are also asking for extending unemployment benefits of $600 per week plus potentially another round of aid, most likely in the form of another stimulus check, and that's where the problem begins. But will this bill actually pass? Well, let's try to extrapolate and use words that fit our tax bracket in order to see what is likely going to happen. I just saw 5 trillion iterations of political debates. How many involved the stimulus check? Just one. We're in the end game now. Yeah, you thought Infinity War was the most ambitious crossover event in history? No, it's getting the Republicans and the Democrats to come together to agree on something. That is the most ambitious crossover event in history. But there's a very good reason why another stimulus check is very opposed. So let me explain the problem, and you can decide for yourself what's the best course of action. On one hand, we have the House of Representatives. This chamber of Congress is made up of 435 usually very old rich people who vote on various different types of proposals. In order to control this part of Congress, the House of Representatives, you need 218 people to become the majority and control this chamber of Congress. Right now, the Democrats control 232 seats. And that means they have the majority or the power in this specific part of the government. Now, inside this House of Representatives that is largely controlled by Democrats is a fierce battle to have the government spend more money. And the most popular one that's covered by the media is the Emergency Money for the People Act, created by Representative Ro Khanna and Tim Ryan. And together they created a plan that would give Americans ages 16 or older $2,000 per month for anyone making $130,000 per year or less every single month for up to 1 year. And right now, the plan that was created by Democratic leaders, which is the $750 billion stimulus of Phase 4, is going to be decided and voted on pretty soon. In addition to that, the $2,000 a month stimulus bill is back, but this time it's proposed by the big-time senators Bernie Sanders, Ed Markey, and Kamala Harris. And if passed, everyone who makes under $120,000 per year will get $2,000 a month. Married couples would receive $4,000, and families would receive an additional $2,000 per child for up to 3 children. And then payments would be paid retroactively to as far back as March. So that's what the Democrats want, but you also need the Senate to agree to all of this as well, and that's where the other part of Congress comes into play. You need 51 seats to control the Senate, and right now, the Republicans control a majority of the seats, so whichever bill gets passed to the Senate by the House has to be agreed upon by both parties before it gets sent to the president to sign into law. Now, Republicans want a proposal called anything but that proposal. In other words, they want nothing to do with what the Democrats want, because what the Republicans want is to reopen the economy instead of sending people stimulus checks. Instead, they want to give payroll tax credits and deductions to large corporations. And the thinking behind this is to incentivize and give breaks on taxes to these large corporations to keep or to rehire people to come back to work. And so far, they agree on pretty much one thing, and that is that they're both open to the idea of funding state and local governments, so you'll probably see this agreement somewhere in a version of the bill that's being written right now. However, there's one major problem doing this. Well, there's a lot of them, but here's the main one. The Republicans want to get the economy going by putting people back to work. The Democrats want to let people stay at home and continue paying them. But businesses are already reporting that they're having a hard time to get people to come back to work because so many people are incentivized to just stay home because so many of them are earning more money on unemployment than when they were working. Because why would anyone subject themselves going back to work, putting their health at risk, only to get paid potentially less for doing all of it? The truth is, what's going to happen is people are going to stay at home until they time out all of the stimulus and all the unemployment benefits, and then they'll go back to work, because that's the only thing that makes the most financial sense to do. It's almost a reminder that while universal basic income sounds good in theory, and maybe it is, could turn out to be a potentially bad experiment in practice because it could lead to a collapse in productivity. Who would clean the streets, the restaurants, the toilets? I know who. I would, because as an immigrant, I would 10 out of 10 do any of those jobs rather than go back to where I'm from, America. But once you flip the switch on UBI, it'll be extremely difficult to turn off. If the Democrats got their way and we all got universal basic income, even if it was for just 1 year, it would be nearly impossible to roll that plan back, because there would be an uprising, because nobody wants to be the guy that says everyone go home at the end of that party. But let's be fair and not just single out the Democratic strategy, because the Republican strategy could very well jeopardize the entire economy. Because if we send out all the people back to the workforce without knowing all the facts and all the numbers, we could again endanger the entire economy and have another round of shutdowns, which would be way worse financially speaking. So definitely pros and cons to both strategies. However, the Republicans hold most of that deciding power. They have the president and they have the Senate. Remember, you need all three branches to agree, the third one being the president. And since the Republicans have 2/3 of what it takes to pass a bill, they're the ones with the leverage. Which means the most likely outcome, if I had to put money on it, will be that people will be called back to work and will see a form of compensation to state and local governments, as well as a small reasonable injection of stimulus checks. And if I had access to real government money, and if I could take a wand and just magically wave it right in front of it, I would just take all of that money and redirect a lot of it towards the healthcare sector and all the industries. That way they can figure out who has the antibodies in order to put the people back to work. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot less financial incentive to go back to work in the first place, with a lot less public confidence. If the pandemic was a stock in the stock market, then its fundamentals would be the health and safety of the public. So let's figure that number out first before investing our money. Ultimately, both Republicans and Democrats want what's best for the economy. They just disagree on how to get there. One side wants to support the little guy by sending you and I stimulus checks. The other side wants to support corporations by putting us back to work. One side wants to take it slow and steady. The other side wants to open the economy right now. Let's go. A sneeze ain't never killed no one. But what's most interesting to me is that the future of America, as far as who gets this financial relief or not, is being decided by a very select few groups of people who ironically need this money the least. Why don't we have an app on our phone already that we can just download, put in our credentials, click a button, and we get to decide and vote on what happens to the future of America? This is where I say blockchain, proof of stake, and seem very smart. But seriously, why is that not a thing already? Now, as far as the stock market goes, bad things are happening. 33 million are still unemployed, and the stock market is still going up. Important news for all shareholders of Disney, because just recently Disney decided to pull a Scrooge McDuck and cut their dividends entirely, which puts a lot of people like myself and a lot of retirees who depend on that dividend income to fund their lifestyle and retirement at jeopardy. And that's really unfortunate, because for a long time I really thought that Disney wouldn't be quite as affected by all of this, but this pandemic has been the perfect storm for them, because all of their theme parks, all the movies they produce, all of their merchandise, all their stores, all the retail stuff, every part of their business, with the exception of one, their Disney streaming platform, has been drastically affected by all of this. So in turn, they decided to cut their dividend, which in return will save them approximately $1.6 billion this summer alone. And I think that is a smart conservative move for them to do. So if you do believe in a future world with Mickey Mouse in it, I do believe that the dividend will be reinstated, but it's unlikely that it'll happen anytime this year. This cut represents a loss of $58 per year. Other companies that have cut their dividend for me include WestRock for 57%, which represents another $11 annual decrease, and the third company was Welltower with a 30% decrease, representing another $32 annual loss. Altogether, $101 of annual income lost from dividend cuts in May. And it is what it is. It's all part of the investing journey. Please continue investing, don't panic. And in the meantime, create an account with Webull, get 2 free stocks, one of which can be valued all the way up to $1,400 if you fund your account $100. Get your other free stock from Robinhood. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Follow me on Instagram. Love you all. See you on Monday and Friday. Stay healthy, stay woke, stay swole, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye-bye.